today, the 20th of May, 2025. Today on Hard Facts, we turn our attention to the third tier of government, the local government. Now, in Lagos State, as in many parts of Nigeria, the structure, the function, legitimacy of local governments remain a source of very intense debate. By constitutional design, Nigeria has 774 local government areas, with 20 recognized in Lagos State. But Lagos operates with 57 councils, including local council development areas, or LCDAs, if you want to call it that. These are structures the 1999 Constitution does not formally recognize. In fact, the Supreme Court ruled in AG Lagos versus AG Federation in 2004 that LCDAs cannot receive federal allocation unless the Constitution is amended. At the heart of this controversy is also the issue of local government autonomy, a promise enshrined in Section 7, subsection 1 of the Constitution, but one undermined by the joint state local government accounts, through which FAC allocations are controlled by state governors. This is also something that we have debated over and over again on this show. So the question is, what does this mean for grassroots democracy, for development, and for the millions of Lagosians who vote in these elections that, some argue, have no legal standing? Well, my guest is a local government chairman hopeful. He's joining us in the studio live. I'm going to be introducing him in a bit as we not just talk about his bid or his ambition to be a local government chairman, but some of the issues that local governments have been facing in Nigeria. In case you're just joining us, we're live on facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. We're also live on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. My guest is Ayodele Adio. He is a local government chairman aspirant, or rather candidate for the Youth Party here in Lagos. He's running for local government in Eti-Osa. It's so good to have you join us, Mr. Adio.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Did I pronounce your name properly?
Properly.
Lovely. I'm guessing you hang.
Like
I'm guessing you hang on these names.
Yeah.
Great. First, let's go straight to the fact that Lagos has 20 constitutionally recognized local government area, but actually operates 57 councils, including the LCDAs. Constitutionally, only 20 is recognized. How do you intend to navigate this structural controversy as a chairmanship hopeful?
Firstly, and not to massage your ego, I think you're probably the only journalist who has, succinctly articulated the problem. And you have not just articulated it, you've also backed it with Supreme Court decisions or judicial decisions that give rise to some of these controversies. Because like you rightfully said, the landmark decision by the Supreme Court that sort of buried LCDAs in Lagos argued that they couldn't receive funding from, the Federation, except of course it went through a constitutional amendment process. Unfortunately, what people are sort of deceived to remember was that there was a separate litigation that was pursued by the governor at the time, to challenge the federal government from withholding the other funds that were accrued to the 20 legitimate local governments. And so the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the local government of Lagos State in that regard, that you could not hold the funds that were due for the 20 recognized local governments. But obviously not to the 37 LCDs that were not recognized. And so we've dealt with this impunity for so long a time, and such that people had normalized it, that you had 37 LCDs in Lagos State. But last year, a momentous decision by the Supreme Court, sort of changed the entire playing field. And it's interesting because it was the president again who took the 36 governors to the Supreme Court to demand autonomy for local governments. And part of the declarations that were sought by the Attorney General, some of which were governors should not have the powers to unilaterally remove elected local government chairmen. I must add that found its way into the local government law in Lagos, which is a direct contradiction of the ruling of the Supreme Court. Of course, the Supreme Court also decided that any state that is in violation of Section 1 and 7 of the Constitution, should not receive funding from the Federation account for local governments. And, like you rightfully said in your introduction, the Constitution did not just talk about local government. It listed the amount of local governments in the country at 768 and 6 council areas that make it 774 local governments. So anything outside that is clearly unconstitutional, and elections are not supposed to hold in those local governments, and any monies that are being diverted to those local governments are completely illegal, right? And, to sort of even buttress the argument is the fact that you have honorable members currently representing Lagos State who are currently sponsoring an amendment in the National Assembly to recognize these 37 LCDAs. So it's an admittance that these LCDAs are strangers to the Constitution, and the impunity with which they have continued to conduct elections into these places is extremely worrying. And except something is done about it, we just cannot afford such brazen impunity to continue, in Lagos case. Because, what happens usually is that when monies come to Ikeja local government or to Eti-Osa, somebody then shares it to Ikoyi Obalende, to VI Iru. On what mandate are you sharing those monies? And ask yourself, Miriam, the Attorney General is asking local governments to come and open accounts at the CBN so that they can receive funding directly. Who is going to open an account in Lagos State? Is it Ikoyi Obalende? Is it VI Iru? So that's the impunity that we found ourselves in. But we must challenge it so that we can put a stop, to this impunity.
It's interesting that, you've asked that question, because there are people who actually wonder if, these unconstitutional elections that have been holding, is it deepening democracy or is it weakening democracy? Because again, there's that thing that people say about local government elections across the country, that the government in power, the state governor or whatever party is at the center, is who decides, the local government elections at the end of the day. So who's going to challenge if this is a legality or not?
To your question about who's going to challenge this, we're already challenging it. Because first of all, we've written a letter of demand to LISEC to commit publicly that they are all going to be conducting elections to 20 local governments. Of course, that's the formality, because we know that they want to conduct in 37 LCDAs, but we need their response, which we are going to go to court with, right? To demand that elections would only hold in those recognized 20 local governments in Lagos. So we're definitely taking this up, and would expect. There's very little wiggle room. I just don't see it that this gets to court and any court rules otherwise, because you're familiar with River State politics. The decision for which the local government elections
emanated from Rivers,
exactly. So if you read the Supreme Court decision that scuttled the River State election and ordered a rerun, you will see that the Lagos State Electoral Commission is in gross violation of several of the same provisions upon which the elections in River State were completely annulled, if you like, and a rerun was ordered. They are in complete breach of many of that. And so I just don't see how this holds up, in any competent court of the land, because it's a clear and present danger to our constitution, especially because, the problem is not so much about having LCDAs, because in truth, Lagos State government can decide to have LCDAs. It can, write to its State House of Assembly, as it did, to create these LCDAs. But the Lagos State government must be willing to fund those LCDAs. So you can fund them through appropriation from the State House of Assembly, and then appoint administrators to govern all of those LCDAs with clear terms of reference for whatever developmental projects you want to pursue within those LCDAs. What you cannot do is to conduct elections into these LCDs, hoping that you're going to take funds that come from Abuja, to then spread across this illegal entity, to sort of legitimize them. That is what is gravely unconstitutional.
And in speaking about local government financial autonomy, because that's something that we have had conversations over and over and over again, and it's always a split, decision at all points. So I want to ask a direct question. Do you support local government financial autonomy? The reason why I'm asking is that the National Assembly has attempted time and time again to grant full local government autonomy to local governments. And Lagos is one of the states that has rejected it. Why are states so reluctant, especially your state, to relinquish power or control over those monies?
Well,
because again, there's also that jack situation. So how do you push for local government autonomy, but then there's jack?
Yes. So again, as part of the relief sought by the Attorney General in the case that they took to the Supreme Court, they sort of have divorced, or the ruling of the Supreme Court has sort of divorced local governments from the state joint accounts that had been the traditional ways of sharing allocation to local governments over the years. So that decision essentially cuts off the umbilical cord that connects states to local governments. But again, because of the culture of impunity, is why you continue to have a situation where governors want to control funds that accrue to local governments. And because people do not pay attention or do not care, what happens at the local level, they're obsessed with Abuja and perhaps obsessed with their state capital, that they forget the government that is closest to them. And then the governors get away with this. I mean, if people can just think back to when Ayodele was Lagos Island chairman in Lagos State, Lagos Island had its own transportation network. It had its own buses that were moving people around. It was investing in huge infrastructural development. People don't remember that the city hall that you see here was built by a local government chairman. So people talk about Obanikoro. He became extremely popular in Lagos because he was chairman of Lagos Island. So it was a big deal when Hakeem Dixon was chairman of Surulere local government. They had their own LASMA before LASMA even came to Lagos State. They had the environmental corps, that was doing environmental cleanup and things like that. So local government,
which is solely the duty of the local government.
Exactly. So we once had functioning local governments until politicians decided that local government chairmen were becoming too powerful, too influential, and they wanted to nip that influence in the bud. And they also wanted unfettered access to the resources that were coming to these local governments, and it's been downhill since then.
So we know that data from the RMFAC shows billions allocated monthly to local government areas, yet citizens obviously see very little impact. You've obviously addressed the fact that the state governors like to put their hand in that particular cookie jar. Can you explain to the average person who you're trying to get to vote for you because you want to? Obviously, I'm guessing that anybody who wants to run for office wants to change things. Can you explain how you would improve transparency and accountability in Eti-Osa local government?
I think it's an interesting
especially
question.
With the spending.
Yeah, you asked, because I'm running on two cardinal principles, one of which is, financial accountability and transparency. And obviously the second is the effective delivery of public services that have been broken over the years. To your point about accountability, it doesn't take too much to be accountable to the people. The first is that, my commitment is to open the books. Every budget, every line item on the budget for Eti-Osa will be made public. It will be accessible to everyone within the local government. Of course, I want to institute a quarterly town hall where members of the community can come and ask tough questions of their chairman, can ask, to follow up on spendings and expenditure that has been done by the government, which we would obviously, make public to the people. Would ensure that only issues that directly concern and affect the people within those local government will get our attention, and that is only where monies will be spent on, not on interest outside, that local government. So, without doing too much, by simply opening the books, by simply having a clear and transparent procurement system, by simply having quarterly town halls where you can engage your elected officials and hold them to task about the things that they had promised, what they have spent monies on, and to track, this project life cycle, would already have opened up the local government community participation. And that's the way to grow many of these local governments, because it just seems it's like people are working in silos. The people currently in power are doing their thing, and the people who they are supposed to be governing are doing their things. Like, both parties exist in two different worlds. I want to bring that world together where there's participation from communities, because it's the people that we're leading, and not setting interest, outside those local government.
It's easy to say that you want to do things, but then there's that strong arm of the state governments, whether you like it or not. And how easy do you think this is going to be for you, especially that you're not running on the platform of the APC?
What part are you talking about? Winning the election or governing now?
Governing.
Okay, let's talk.
Both come. One comes after the other.
Well,
so.
That's true. But let's talk about governing. So I'm not really and truly, going to be in government or in office to prove a point or to be antagonistic to the state government or to the federal government, even though we come from different political parties. Because you need a level of cooperation and collaboration with state institutions to be able to perform optimally at the local level. You need to collaborate on environment, on infrastructure, and a gamut of other things. So, at the core, of my mandate will be my ability to collaborate with state governments, with private sector actors, with development organizations, and of course with the federal government. So, as long as, it's in the interest of the people of that local government, as long as it moves the needle forward, I'm happy to be on the table with anybody. But obviously, when it crosses the boundaries of, constitutional legitimacy, is where I'd always have a problem with. I'm not going to pick a phone call from a governor that says I should move monies from Eti-Osa and give somebody in Ikoyi or Balende. That is not going to happen, right? So those are the boundaries that I'm going to set, but I'm always going to be happy to work with whoever is governor, whoever is the senator representing that particular senatorial district, and whoever the president is, as long as it's the larger interest of the people.
Let's talk about the elections, because that's a major concern.
Yeah.
We all know it's public notice now that there's infighting in the government at the center, the party. There's an outcry of people being foisted on them. That's not your business anyway. But then what is your business is that what would you say to Lagosians who feel local government elections are selections, not elections per se? Due to low turnout, weak institutions, and partisan state electoral commissions. Again, that is the principality I was talking about.
Yeah. They're absolutely right. That has been the case for many years. And that's why you have an average voter turnout in local elections in Lagos at below 3%. It's abysmal. People don't turn out to vote. And that's largely because of state institutions that have been manipulated to keep the ruling party in power. And that's not peculiar to Lagos. It happens in the 36 states across the country. To be honest with you, it's been challenging trying to convince people to believe in the local process. But we're doing the work. We're speaking to people across. We're encouraging them that we have plans on ground to ensure that, we provide protection, which is an abnormality. Anyway, no candidate should be thinking of how he or she is going to provide security for people who are coming to vote on election day. But that's our reality. We have to make those provisions to ensure that people who come out to a very large extent, are safe to cast their vote and go home. We're also going a step further to enlighten people as to where their polling units exist. Now, this is a huge problem, and it goes to the heart of the unconstitutional practice of LCDs over time. Because what happens is that because of the delineation of polling units by LISEC in Lagos State, on election day, people are usually confused on where their polling units are, because the place that you vote for state and federal elections are likely to be different from where you're going to vote in local government elections.
And why is that?
Which is a complete aberration. That goes to the heart of the problem, because state electoral commissions have no such powers to delineate wards or registration areas. Because think of it. You can't conduct elections as a state electoral commission without collecting the voters register from INEC. So INEC gives you the voters register to conduct elections. And then what then happens is that they now, follow the way that they have partitioned or delineated the polling units to redistribute people across. And so you have a situation. I remember the last local government election where, we had a candidate who ran in Lekki, Tari Taylor. And on election day, people who came to vote at Admiralty Way, that was their normal polling unit. They were told their names were not on the voters register, that they should go to somewhere in Maryann Okon in Victoria Island. They mobilized, went to...
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
We'll be right back, Lagos. Stay with us.
Info. Let's talk.
Mommy, you want to watch YouTube?
Not my phone again. Every time YouTube.
Mommy, you want to watch YouTube?
You want to watch YouTube? Not with my phone. Go and watch TV.
But there's no YouTube on our TV.
That's before. With the new Airtel Smart Router, for just 25,000 naira, you can watch YouTube and more on any TV, even our own TV.
Really? Yay! Thank you, Mommy.
Oh, you're welcome.
Turn any TV into a smart TV with the Airtel Smart Router and watch Nollywood movies, football, and lots more on YouTube with unlimited data for 30 days. Airtel, a reason to imagine.
The power to win bigger is in your hands with 2,500 times multiplier for BetKing Casino games. Download the app and register today using the promo code FREEBETS to enjoy 100 naira instant bonus and other exciting offers. Terms and conditions apply. Not for persons under 18 years. Play responsibly.
West Africa. Get ready to build, innovate, and elevate. From the elegance of ceramics to the precision of construction. From the flow of advanced water systems to the refreshing breeze of cutting-edge air conditioning. It's the Ellen Expo West Africa Construction Week, the 9th edition of the Build Expo, West Africa's construction exhibition, and the 8th Mega Clima HVAC and R Expo for all things cooling and refrigeration. Live at the Landmark Event Center, Lagos, from Tuesday, May 20th to Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, starting daily at 10 a.m. Ellen Expo Construction Week is where the future of construction in West Africa takes shape. Be a part of it. Entry is free. Register at www.ellenexpo.net. It's massive, and it's the future of West Africa's construction development. Ellen Expo Construction Week, bringing the world to West Africa.
What can your bank do for you? Meet Jane, 25 years old. She's been having troubles acquiring a loan from her bank.
This is not okay at all. I've been on this queue forever, and you're saying I should fill another form. What's going on?
What can your bank do for you? Meet Frank, 27 years old, held up in traffic and making fruitless transactions.
Mama, I am paying the airtime, even the electricity charges. I don't know why it's so difficult making this payment.
Introducing Safri, a lifestyle digital bank that's designed just for you. With one click, you can make easy and fast payment transactions, pay bills, and even acquire easy loans. Hurry and download the Safri app on your Play Store. Visit safrisafri.com for more information. Safri, borderless banking.
Charlatan Quality Anti-Malaria contains Artemisa and Lumefantrine, available in cherry-flavored dispersible tablets with very convenient dosing for kids. Charlatan is also available in tablets for adults. Knock out malaria in 3 days with Charlatan from Shalina Healthcare. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult your doctor.
Charlatan is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
Every day is about winning with one play on Nigeria Info. On Nigeria Info, daily winnings is now over 150,000 naira. Just go to oneplay.ng or dial *347 *880 *3 hash. Play with as little as 500 naira, and in a few seconds, your ticket is in the draw. The more you play, the better your chances of winning every day on the Morning Crossfire, WhatsApp Lagos, and Game On shows on weekdays, and the Football Frenzy shows on weekends. But that's not all. Every Friday, there will be a 500,000 naira jackpot. Playing during the week automatically qualifies you for the weekly jackpot. Your chances of winning are the same whether you play on oneplay.ng or dial *347 *880 *3 hash. Remember to play responsibly. Not suitable for persons under the age of 18. OnePlay is a registered trademark under Lasho Trading Services Limited, licensed by the Lagos State Lotteries and Gaming Commission.
Alfie playing football in the rain?
It's Toby Chio.
My goodness. When did he grow up?
That's it with kids, so.
It's amazing how your child grows up before your eyes. Enable their thriving development with the new NanKid 4 with HMOs to support your child's development, probiotics, and high-quality proteins to support age-appropriate growth. NanKid 4. Nourish your child's potential.
Help build strong bones with Vitabiotics Osteocare from the UK. The supplement that's not just calcium, but also contains scientific cofactors better absorption into the bones. Nourish your bones, teeth, and muscles with Osteocare. In Nigeria, we need calcium for our children through adult life and especially for our seniors to help prevent stunted growth, broken bones, and osteoporosis. Osteocare scientific formula, not just calcium for strong bones from Vitabiotics UK, available in pharmacies around you.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We are back.
We're back on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Millions of listeners trust us on Hashback. Whether it's politics, social issues, controversies, and trending stories. You know we're credible and objective.
It's Hard Facts with Maryann Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back. It's still Hard Facts, 99.3 Nigeria Info. We're broadcasting live from our audio-visual studios right here in Eti-Osa Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. And I'm Maryann Okon. We have been speaking with a local government chairman hopeful in the studio. He's a candidate for Youth Party, and he's running for local government chairman in Eti-Osa local government area. Ayodele Adio is still with us in the studio. Before we went on the break, we were talking about, of course, the fact that one-party system elections, especially at the local government, runs across the federation. But then we're looking at Lagos because that's where he's running, and how he intends to deal with that situation. But you were talking about the delineation of certain polling units,
yes,
which obviously has become a practice in Lagos because of the situation in Lagos.
Yeah.
So that means that obviously, as we're going back into this election, that's the same thing that people are going to have to deal with.
Yes.
But let's focus on low voter turnout. Is it because the average Lagosian has given up on the fact that the votes don't really count in this election, so there's no need to come out? And or is it the fault of the politicians themselves? How many of you go door to door to tell the people that this is who I am, I'm the son of this person or that person, I live just around you, and this is what I want to do for you? How many of these people know the candidates enough to come out and vote for you?
Yeah, so I think it's both of them. First of all, there's a low trust level for local government elections. You know, like I said earlier, people have sort of giving up that it's rigged from the get-go. Names are written. It's more like a coronation and not an election. So why should I waste my time coming out to vote? The second also is another key and important aspect. You know, how much in their faces are we as candidates? You know, how much engagements are we doing? How much of our vision are we sharing with these people? How are we inspiring them to come out and risk it all, you know, to vote? So politicians have to do both, right? You know, you have to pursue institutional reforms and, you know, fight for a legal framework that encourages a level playing field, that gives confidence to people to come out and vote. You also have to be able to share your vision, you know, with the people that you want to lead and engage them, you know, at every level. And there's a good chance you're going to get people out to vote. I mean, I saw it happen in 2021 when Tari was running in Lekki. You had people who normally never turned out to vote for local elections came out to vote because they believed in the candidate. The candidate had, you know, had engaged them for quite a while and shared her plans. And that's exactly, you know, what I've been doing. You know, I've been speaking to people across all classes and strata, you know, engaging them, telling them what my plans are, you know, stirring up hope in the possibility of what can happen. Should I eventually be elected into office? And should I put into work, some of this ambitious agenda, which I'm sharing with them? And so with that, I'm earning the trust and the confidence of people who are ready, giving me their word and their commitment, to come out on election day to vote, to also volunteer for the campaign because they believe in the message and they believe that it would improve their lives. And it's even more, it resonates more with them because no one on the other side is speaking to them because they believe that the job is done at the primaries that they did in Akman, and that certificate that they got, as candidates of their party automatically earns them a seat, in office. And so they don't need to campaign to people. They don't need to talk about their plans or their vision. They don't need to sit with people in the community. And that gives, people like me an edge because everywhere I go to, they tell me that no candidate has spoken to them. Nobody has sat with them. Nobody has ate with them. Nobody has broken bread with them. And they're telling me things that I didn't even know about some of these communities. And I'm learning new things the more I visit many of these places. And it's the work that you have to put in as an opposition to sell your vision, to engage people, and give them a reason to come out on election day.
It's interesting, but I want to ask you, do you think that it is the people, the electorates, that would create the change, the needed change for election at the local level to actually matter? Is it us? Is it you, the politicians who do not belong to the party at the center or the party at the top? What do you think has to give for there to be a turnaround in the system?
I think
because I'm guessing that it has to start from the grassroots before it gets to the top.
Yes, so I think it's a collective effort, right? 2 years ago, if I remember correctly, 2 or 3 years ago, I think I'd written an article about the gated estates theory in Lagos State, and I argued at the time that the reason why the incumbent party, that's the APC, always lose elections where they are gated estates where middle to high income people live is because they are always self-governing. So in those estates, they have their water, they have their roads, they have everything. And so they do not need you, so typically they usually vote against, the APC. And it was interesting because somebody read that article from the MIT and they came to do a study in Lagos. And they did a research across markets in Lagos as to how markets were self-governing and the people govern themselves within those market spaces, right? So it just speaks to your point that we have to go back to the days where everything at the local level was done collectively. You knew the house of your councillor, or you knew his office at the very least. If you didn't know the house of your chairman, you at least knew, or you were sure you were going to meet him in office. And that way, once the people begin to care more about the people that is leading them, there is absolutely no way that, those who are elected into office can play fast and loose with them, right? So it starts with the people demanding better, demanding more of those who are elected into office. And that way, that pressure will force the politicians to do a lot better. And I can tell you for free, the issues in Eti-Osa is already on the lips of most residents here. They see the challenges up front. They see the failures of their local government up front. The local government is so incompetent, it can't collect waste. It's so incompetent, it can't provide street lights, right?
I was just going to say, please, what are let's just talk about the 3 urgent things that you think Eti-Osa needs, because I've talked about the street lights, the traffic lights, they're not working. The kids are the new LASMA officials. LASMA officials don't show up to their duty. I mean, that's a conversation we've had for the past 2 weeks. What are the 3 major things that you think Eti-Osa needs right now?
Well, to be honest, I'll start with the principal thing, right? We need a bold, imaginative transformation plan for the environment in Eti-Osa. The environment is completely broken down. You have states and local governments incapable of performing the simple function of collecting and disposing waste. The basic, simple function of doing that is completely broken down. And we have to fix it. And we're going to fix it by doing two very, very, very simple things. I tell you something. 50% of the waste generated in Eti-Osa is food waste. Another 30% is plastics, and what have you. Now, and many of these wastes, are generated in dominant marketplaces like, Jakonde, Itedo, Aja markets, and places like that. What I want to do, first of all, with food waste that makes up 50%, we're generating an average of 200 tons of food waste in Eti-Osa, which is about 73,000 tons a year. The technology to convert food waste to biogas has been mainstreamed. And what we're going to do is to make those conversion centers resident here in Eti-Osa. And converting 73,000 tons of food waste will power 10,000 homes at the very least with electricity. It will provide at least 15,000 homes with cooking gas and can actually power, the size of BRT buses. It can power about 1,000, a year, right? This is the huge potential that food waste has. Just by converting them to biogas, you can provide electricity, cooking gas, and power vehicles. And what I'm saying is not esoteric. The technology has been
there are those who are saying
mainstreamed.
that, oh gosh, you're dreaming too big.
No, so this is what I want. This is why I want people to come down from the clouds, and that's why I'm emphasizing that these technologies are mainstream. And I shock you, there are small businesses in Lagos as we speak today that are already doing them at a very small scale. There are people who are recycling waste to produce tiles that you can use to construct roads here in Lagos. There are people who are already taking expired, cooking oil. They're buying it from people, recycling it and exporting it. There are people who are picking plastic waste. I mean, if you go outside your house, you see these guys who just empty your dustbin and pick plastics alone. They're exporting it. There are people who are collecting them, exporting them, and making tons of money out of it. So I'm not saying things that are hanging in the stars. I'm saying things that are already operating in silos around Lagos. And all I'm going to do is to provide a condition for these businesses to be formalized, to come into, Eti-Osa, set up shop, employ people, work directly in these markets where most of these wastes are generated, and convert them immediately from those market points. So, many of the... It's sad that when you even go to these markets, we complain about the waste that they generate. You can walk hundreds of meters in those markets and not see a single waste bin. The public toilets in those markets are either non-existent or have completely...
We need a separation for these conversations, please.
So I just want you to see the scale, of incompetence that has been normalized over the years, that public toilets no longer exist. And that's why Eti-Osa has a high prevalence of typhoid fever. It's almost at endemic levels in Eti-Osa, largely because of poor sanitation and hygiene practices. So these are, and that's why I want to tackle it headlong, because not just for the economic part of it, because we're also going to create at least 10,000 jobs from the environment. Again, people say, how are you going to do it? I say to you, Hakeem Dixon did it when he was, chairman of Surulere. Ayodele did it when he was chairman of Lagos Island. You had young people who were employed by the local government, who ensured that that your waste were properly disposed of, who ensured that they collected waste, who ensured that they took the waste. There were major collection points at the time that ensured that it went there, and there were some that ensured that it went to recycling. Of course, recycling wasn't popular then, but that job and opportunity is open now. So we're going to give young people opportunities to take them off the streets. I mean, if you drive past, you see that there's a drug problem in Eti-Osa. A terrible...
I say we don't have time for this conversation.
Drug problem.
I need to bring you back. We'll talk about it, because you're a young person and you'd probably be able to understand some of these issues. But today is not the day. We're just talking about the elections. Lagos, you can join the conversation. We're live on Facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. We're also live on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. Call us 0201 0207-0993 if you are male. For the female, 0201-465-7190. You can also join us on WhatsApp. It's 080-959-75805. You can only call WhatsApp if you are calling from outside of the country. 60 seconds is all you have. Please go straight to the point. He knows it's a good evening. Hello.
Yeah, good evening, Maryann.
Good evening.
To your guest.
Yes.
Jonathan is my name.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
And Maryann, this report a topic here 2 days ago about Tony's knowledge about democracy in Africa. I think people are the people that will bring the change. And the reason why democracy is not working here is because people have not taken ownership. People, a lot of us out here, and that is why you will see 5% of us will be deciding who will become governor, who will become president. And now we have local government chairman facing us. Maybe it's 1% of that Eti-Osa now that we decide. We need to get out of this.
Okay.
Having said that, just one question to your guest. Is he aware that local government revenue, they are taking as much as 30,000 naira, 50,000 naira for vans? Is he aware? What is his opinion about that?
What van?
5 tons vans, carrying haulage,
okay.
all the part of Lagos.
Okay.
They are giving them certification as much as 50,000 naira for documents. Is he aware? What is his opinion about it?
All right, thank you very much. Great point. We'll put a pin there. We need to take some more calls. 0201-277-0993. That's the number to call. If you are a lady, 0201-465-7190. Dr. Helen Emoria here says, brilliant gentleman. Your guest is very impressive. Adaba here says, I like that Ayo is putting in for an election. Let's see how he's going to implement this, all his early morning analysis on the radio. By going past popular activists, turned politicians. He's saying, let's see how you do it. Let's take another quick call. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Hello, Miriam. Good evening. This is Godwin from Ota.
Go ahead, Godwin.
Yeah, I want to ask your guest a question. I really enjoy his analysis. I want to ask him, with all what he has been complaining about the local government autonomy, what is going on in state concerning the local government asking them, telling the chairman to come and do joint accounts, this and that, and all those stuff. I want to ask him a question of yes or no. Then later I can explain. I want to ask him, are we really practicing democracy in this country?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You have 2 questions. Let's see where you want to start.
Well, I mean, let's start with the democracy part of it. If I was going to be technical, I would say that what we have is an anarchy, really and truly, where you have democratic institutions, but they are very weak. They are not self-reinforcing, and it's the democracy of the big man. Where might is right, and where institutions submit to the will of executive, overreach in certain instances. So to that extent, technically, I would say we have an anarchy. But that can change, when people, I think it was the first caller who said, when people organize themselves better, when they participate and they care a lot more, about the development of their community, I think that you'll see a lot more change happen. You would see that politicians will sit up, and they'll do much better. The average politician in Nigeria is on holiday, absolutely comfortable, doesn't think, no iota of pressure that a 10,000, 20,000 naira transfer cannot solve, because the pressure that he's dealing with is an invitation to a naming ceremony or somebody whose wife's pregnant and needs hospital bills. Nobody's demanding of him quality governance. And so we just have politicians who are under zero pressure in Nigeria. And just by upping the pressure on the political elite, we're likely to see a lot more, than we currently get today.
So the first question was about the vans.
Oh, yeah, he talked, of course. That happens, across every local government in Lagos. So it's not just vans, even company vehicles, usually pay those local government fees, and things like that. Now, for my local government, I am going to strike down as many illegal taxes and fees that do not that cannot be relatively explained and tied, to local productivity, they will go, right? Of course, there are standard taxes that local governments collect. Well, many of them have actually even been usurped by the state government, but the very little that they are still able to collect, I would ensure that we're accountable for them. People will know exactly what was collected, would ensure that it's not burdensome on small businesses who are trying to survive in that corridor, would ensure that it's not extortionist in nature, but more importantly, would ensure that we provide services that are commensurate to the contributions that they make in payments of taxes, and levies.
All right, I'll take one quick call and then I'll read some messages because we are almost out of time. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts. We lost that call. All right, someone here says he has spoken well, but how realistic is his vision? We hope that they're not empty promises.
Well, the example I gave is if I told you, before the gentleman who is the current Minister for Interior, that you'll get your passport in 2 weeks, you say I was speaking big English, isn't it? Because it's a problem that we've dealt with donkey years. But somebody came in with a plan, was bullish about it, solved the problem. So I think one of the issues we have is that because bad governance and
we're traumatized.
Exactly. People cannot open their minds to the possibility of what is obtainable given the opportunities that are prevalent in Lagos. So when I'm talking about these bold ideas, they are actually very simple and basic things, that happen at very community and municipal levels in many other countries across the world, right? So they are possible, they are achievable, and we will do them, with very, very minimal strain. I can guarantee you.
Okay. Someone here says, hi, Maryann. Your guest is very sound and very vibrant. Please, what party is he contesting for? TJ from Abu Dhabi. Youth Party, YP. Youth Party. Yes, not YPPU. Youth Party. Someone here says, I like how your guest is talking. Shows he's one of the intelligent youths we need to change the ugly tide. However, our problem has never been getting good people to govern, but getting good people to remain good when they get into office. Because power, especially in Nigeria, corrupts absolutely. Can he really change that narrative? Tony from Marine Beach is asking a very pertinent question.
I totally agree. I totally agree. You see, the problem we've had with the good people that change when they got into office was the system with which those good people emerged. Now, if you emerge with a faulty system where people had, to rig for you to get into office, where people had to do all sorts of illegal things to get you into office, you cannot automatically divorce yourself from that system. You still have to pay a certain amount of homage to that system that sprung you up. And so that sort of corrupts, and limits, what those good people can do when they go into office. And it's why it's important that I have chosen a platform, and I encourage people to choose platforms that are transparent, that internal democracy thrives, so that the people who emerge from these platforms already understand the basics of what a democratic society should expect. And it won't be difficult for them to replicate that, when they're in office. Imagine somebody who is a beneficiary of stolen goods to start, preaching to you up that stealing is bad.
Well, I wish that we had more time to take more thoughts, but we're almost out of time. I have 26 seconds. David Nyong here says most people don't believe in politics again. That's why people don't come out to vote on election days. People waste their time and struggle to vote, and at the end, no good results. But state and federal to still think... oh, God, my goodness. Anyway, he says to do something good in the state and the country, we call the attention of the people to come out and vote. Okay, thank you very much, David Nyayong. At this point, I want to say thank you to my guest. Ayodele Adio is the local government, I wanted to say presidential candidate, local government candidate, local government chairmanship candidate for Youth Party, and he's running in Eti-Osa local government area. Hopefully we'll bring you back to talk about more about sanitation.
Looking forward
more
to
about
it.
The drugs.
Exactly.
And how you intend to, deal with that just before the elections.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time here.
Lovely. Well, Lagos, that's the show. Don't forget to follow Nigeria Info on Facebook, Twitter, Threads, and on TikTok. Nigeria Info FM. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, MIMIEYO, or just Google Maryann Okon. I love you, Lagos. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Credible journalism. Reach
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.